We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara in Mesechet Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 5a. The Gemara is revising what Shmuel said on the Mishnah. This is relevant to Yados of Nedarim. Yados of Nedarim, again, is when you say part of the phrase of making the prohibition, but you don't say the full phrase, and we say that that's going to be good enough. And so in the revised version of what Shmuel says, he says as follows, Aval Amar Mudrani Heimach L'chudei. Let's say the person says, I am going to be usher to you, Mudrani Heimach. There's going to be an oath, so to speak, on me from you. So if that's all you say, and you don't add in the thing of the items which I eat of yours, etc., so then Shnei and Asurin. So then just by saying Mudrani Heimach, what you're really saying is the Isser is in both directions. That was the Chiddush of Shmuel, and the Mefarish here says, Aval Amar Mudrani Heimach L'chud. If all he says is Mudrani Heimach, the Lo Amar Sha'ani Ochelach. He doesn't say Sha'ani Ochelach, which would indicate that the prohibition only goes in one direction. Instead, he just says Mudrani Heimach. So Shmuel's Chiddush was that really means both directions. That means the person saying the neder cannot partake from the food of the other individual, and the other individual can't partake of the food of the person saying the neder. That's what it means, Shnei and Asurin. And the Gemara says, Ki hado Amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina. If, according to what we're saying now, what Shmuel is saying is the same thing that Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina said, because he said as follows, Mudrani Heimach Shnei and Asurin. If the statement is Mudrani Heimach, so then they are both asur. And again, if it's not just a statement of Mudrani Heimach, then it just goes in one direction. And the Mefarish over here says, Shnei and Asurin, they are both asur. The Kevan do Amar Sha'ani Ochelach. Now, if he would have said the phrase of Sha'ani Ochelach, when he says that as well, so Mashma do Asur Nafshe Bilvad. So then what he's saying is, the person making the neder, he's the one that is asur to have the food from the other individual. She'eno Ochel Mechaber. Then he's saying he's not going to eat from his friend. Avol Ki Amar Mudrani Heimach Stam. But if the statement is just Mudrani Heimach, so mashma demadir nami chavre minei. He's saying he is mudar from his friend, and his friend is mudar from him. Mikol v'kol in entirety. And that again, that was a statement of Shmuel, and that is the same statement as Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina. And the Gemara continues to now. We learned in a Mishnah, this is a Mishnah later on, Hareini alecha chayrim. So the Mishnah says, let's say a person says a phrase, I am to you a chayrim. So in such a situation, hamudar asr. So the other person, not the one making the statement, that's the mudar, he's the one that's asr, because what the statement is, I am to you a chayrim, meaning I am prohibited to you. Avol madir lo. But by the madir, the one saying the neder, he's not prohibited. It only goes in one direction in this case, and it only applies to the mudar. And so this would seem to go against what Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina is saying, and also what Shmuel is saying, because here it seems to be saying that Hareini alecha chayrim, which doesn't seem very different than Mudrani Heimach, which when you only say Mudrani Heimach, those are very similar statements, and it seems to go here in one direction, whereas again, before we said Mudrani Heimach goes in both directions, and so therefore this would seem to be a question. And the Gemara answers, Kegon de Parish Vi'at Alai Lo. You have to say, you're right. According to Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina's approach, and again, according to Shmuel's approach, you would have to say that in this Mishnah, the Mishnah is not saying the full statement. The statement actually is, Hareini alecha chayrim, ve'at alai lo. I am to you a chayrim, but you are not upon me a chayrim. And then you would say it's only in one direction. I am upon you a chayrim, and that makes the mudar asr because you added only the mudar asr, because you added ve'at alai lo. And the Gemara continues, At alai chayrim. Now the Mishnah said further over there, what if the phrase is the other way around? You are to me a chayrim. So then the person making the neder, he's the one that is not allowed to partake. Hanoder aser. The noder is aser, because again, the noder is saying, you are to me a chayrim. Avol mudar lo, but it doesn't go the other direction. The mudar is not. Again, this is the same question, and you have to say the same answer. Kegon de parish va'ano alach lo. You'll have to explain this Mishnah again, that he said outright, I to you am not. Right? So in other words, he's saying, in this case, at alai, in that case, at alai chayrim, va'ano alach lo. You are to me a chayrim, but I am not a chayrim to you. And so that's how the Gemara has to explain the Mishnah according to this approach of Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina and this approach of Shmuel. But the Gemara doesn't like this answer for the Mishnah that you have to insert all these words, because if you're going to insert all these words, avol stamamai. So then what would be, let's say you say the statement stam, according to, let's say, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina's approach, what would be the halacha? Apparently Shnei and Asurim. Apparently then it does go in both directions. That's what we're saying over here. That Mudrani Heimach and Hareini alecha chayrim are all really the same. It all goes in both directions, unless you explain otherwise. But the problem with that is the end of the Mishnah. Haminiktani Sefer, but if you look at the end, what is taught at the end of that Mishnah, it says as follows. Hareini alecha viat olai. It says at the end, if you specify, I am upon you a chayrim, and you are upon me a chayrim, so then shnei and asurin. So then they're both asur. Then it goes in both directions, only when you make it clear that it's going in both directions. And that's what the Gemara says, hadinhu d'shnei asurin. Only in this situation do we say they're both asur, it goes in both directions. Hastama, but if you just say the statement stam, hareini lecha chayrim, hu asur v'chaveru mutter, apparently it only goes in one direction. He's asur and his friend is mutter. And so therefore we are back to our question. And the Gemara says you're right. You have to change what Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina said. We will get back to Shmuel as well. Now the Gemara is focusing on Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina. Elohachi itmar. Rather, here's how you explain to Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina. Here's really what Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina said. Mudar ani lach. If the statement was, I am mudar to you, so shneim asurin. So then actually they are both asur. But mudrani heimach, in other words, if you use the language of lach to you, so then it goes in both directions. Mudrani lach, that means to say it's going back and forth, we're both mudar from one another. But mudrani heimach means to say, I am mudar from you, so then, hu asur, so then he is asur, v'chaveru mutar, and the friend is mutar, because then he's simply saying, I am mudar from you, it's only going in one direction. But the Gemara continues, V'hamas nisan, but 1 second, let's look at our Mishnah, which is where Shmuel made his statement. Tekatani heimach, there it actually is, it does say heimach from you. V'ukimnen lamas nisan l'Shmuel, b'chulan ad sheyomer, shani toem loch v'shani ochel loch, hu da'asr v'chaver mutter. And what do we say in Shmuel? We said in all of the cases of the Mishnah, if you say, an shani toem loch, shani ochel loch, you add that phrase, then we say that he is asr and his friend is mutter. Avol b'mudrani heimach, but apparently by mudrani heimach, according to Shmuel, the way he explained the Mishnah, shneim asrim, they are both asr. So you're making this distinction here between mudar ani loch and mudrani heimach, but mudrani heimach was the case in our Mishnah. So we still have the same exact question on Shmuel. And so the Gemara revises Shmuel again. Elamei kara de Shmuel hachi itmar. Rather, what Shmuel actually said was as follows. Taimud amar shani ochel loch v'shani toem loch. The only reason our Mishnah has its halacha is because he added the phrase, that which I eat of yours, that which I taste of yours, hu de'ein hu asr ela b'achila. That's why the only prohibition is food, is eating. In other words, if you add that little part of the phrase, so then what you're saying is you're not going to partake of the food of the other individual. Hamudrani mimcha asr afilu b'hana. But Shmuel was really saying, let's say you just say mudrani mimcha and you don't add the phrase of shani ochel loch or shani toem loch, so then you're saying that there's a prohibition not just on food, but any kind of benefit to get from your friend, that's going to be a prohibition. And the Gemara says, Ihachi, if so, Lema Shmuel Hachi. So what Shmuel should have, the way he should have phrased it is as follows: V'im lo amar ela shani ochel loch v'shani tom loch ein asar ela b'achila. He should have said it explicitly. If what you say is shani ochel loch shani toem loch, so then it's only b'achila. That's the way he should have phrased it. Take a look at the Bach over here. He slightly changes the girsa. He says, Ihachi Lema Shmuel Hachi v'im lo amar shani ochel loch v'shani toem loch asar afilu b'hana. If he didn't say, that's how he should have said it. Shmuel should have said, if he didn't say shani ochel loch, shani toem loch, then it would be asr even b'hana. He should have made it clear and said it in that fashion, if that's really what Shmuel was saying. And we'll take a look at the Mefarish over here. Ihachi lema Shmuel hachi. If that was the case, Shmuel should have said that. Lama le afushe lememre kuli hai. Why do you have to say so much? Lem hachi should have just said as follows. Amar Shmuel says, V'im lo amar shani ochel loch. If he doesn't say shani ochel loch, de lo amar ela mudrani heimach. He only said the phrase of mudrani heimach, asr afilu b'hana. Then the prohibition would even be to derive benefit. And again, that's along the lines of the girsa of the Bach. And so now the Gemara again revises the statement of Shmuel, Elo hachi itma. Rather, this is how it should have been stated from Shmuel. Taima de amar shani ochel loch v'shani toem loch hu de asr. Only because he added the phrase, that which I eat of yours, that which I taste of yours, that's what makes it prohibited. Avolama mudrani heimach, but if he just says the phrase mudrani heimach, lo mashma de amar asr, then it actually doesn't even imply any kind of prohibition. My time, and what's the reason? Mudrani mimcha lo mishta'ino bahadach mashma. When a person says mudrani mimcha, maybe it just means I'm not going to speak with you. Mufrashani mimcha, let's say he says I'm separating from you. To lo avidnei mach maso matan mashma, that just means I'm not going to do business with you. Mirchukani mimcha, when he says I'm distanced from you, de lo ke'imna Dalit Amos dilach mashma. That simply means I'm not going to stand in your Dalit Amos. And the Mefarish says, Alahachi itmar amar Shmuel taimud amar shani ochelach tekevon damar beferish achila asur. Since he specifies achila, it's asur. Avalo amar beferish achila, but Shmuel was saying if you don't say the word achila, lo asur, there's no prohibition at all. Lo asur lemechel mididei. It's not prohibited to eat from his stuff. The deal mahad amar mudar ani mimach adibure ka amar de lo mishtoi badei. Maybe he just means he's not going to talk with him. Avalo lemechel minei. It's not nothing to do with eating. Again, maybe that's only a separation from business when you say mufrashani. When you say merchukani, maybe it just means you're not going to be within the person's arba amos mashma v'lo demadir me'achilaso. Not that he's saying that he's going to stay away from his food, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Hey Amud Beis.